Namaste and Sat Shri Akal to everyone who has joined from the various parts of the world. Welcome to Summer Creative Retreat hosted by our very lovely and sweet Peggy team. My name is Gursimran Kaur from the Little Kaur Studio. I am a Sikh artist based in India and my work is inspired by cultural and spiritual topics. Today, I'll be introducing you to the traditional patterns. Traditional patterns are well known in Indian and Islamic culture. They are used in tiles, textiles, and many other products for decorative purposes. I'll be introducing you to the basics of traditional pattern using our pre-made watercolors that are available in the market. You are free to choose any medium that is available with you or you would love to work with, whether it is gouache, poster colors, Copic markers, or even watercolors if you want. Watercolors are used because they give an earthy and fresh look. Even if you are a complete novice, I have tried to make this session easy to follow up. I would encourage you to work along with me so that you can hold off the information that I'll be providing in the session. If you have any doubts or queries, you can DM me on my Instagram page, The Little Core Studio. You are free to subscribe to my email list. I'll be linking it down below. The first supply that we need is paper. I like to use these two types of paper. First one is cold pressed with 300 GSM thickness and the other one that I use is handmade paper. This is the paper I have used to create the patterns here. Also, we'll be requiring some tissue paper to dry our brushes, a ruler to create lines or to create motifs. Also, the patterns are created on the grids, so we require a grid ruler. If it is available with you, it would be good. Also, we require a pencil. We also need erasers. One is a normal Staedtler eraser and another one is kneadable eraser to lighten the pattern and remove excess graphite before coloring. We also need tracing paper. I have cut an A4 sheet in 4 parts. We just need the quarter part to tessellate the pattern or to recreate the same design again and again. To make circles, I'll be using this tool. You can use compass as well. The last supply that we need is watercolor. I will be using Daler-Rooney travel set to color the pattern. Also, we'll be requiring some brushes. Let's get started with the session. I will be using this handmade paper for creating the pattern. The paper that I am using is from an Indian brand Ayush paper. They provide some really great options of paper with amazing quality. Majority of my artworks using patterns are for Gurbani. These are hymns from our holy book Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. These are some of the pieces that I have created. I really like the color schemes that I have used and how it had turned out in the end. I have tried to experiment different mediums such as watercolors with either gouache or jelly roll pens. Also, I played with consistency of watercolors to achieve opaque effect as well. This last artwork that I have created is like a person sitting in a meditative pose. I have tried to use the gradient effect through watercolors. I hope you enjoyed. Let us begin with the first step, which is drawing a grid. I will be using a grid ruler to draw a 5 mm square grid. You can use your normal scale as well. Grid is the basis of any pattern that you draw. The size of grid depends on the size of artwork or how intricate design you want to create. Base grid makes it easy to line down everything without spacing issues. So we have finished the drawing of grid. Now let's start with the pattern. The design of pattern lies within the squares of grid. We will be using circular and straight lines to draw the OG pattern. I have mentioned about the patterns in attached PDF. You can refer to it. OG pattern is combination of quarter circles, semicircles and straight lines. When the pattern repeats, all the alternating spaces are of same shape. Now we will tessellate this design to create the pattern. I will be using a small piece of tracing sheet to trace the existing design. Tracing makes the process of repeating designs much more easier. Make sure you trace the mirror image. Also, stick down your tracing paper with masking or sellotape so that it doesn't move. Try to use a softer pencil like 4B or 6B as it would create darker lines because of soft graphite, and it would be easier to transfer the design on paper in one go. Once you are done with it, align the tracing sheet with the grid. Traditionally, the patterns are transferred using a burnisher. Since I don't have one, I will use the back of my brush. You can use a smooth stone as well. After aligning the tracing sheet with grid, we will move the back of the brush with a bit of pressure so that the design gets transferred. Repeat the process if the graphite gets a bit lighter. Now we will draw the motif. One thing to keep in mind is that central motif is placed evolving from the crossing central lines of the grid. We would have to repeat the process of tracing here, but you can create one line of design with motif and then start tracing. So the process is to be performed one time only. I will be drawing central motif pattern using circle tool. So I'll be aligning the circle tool with the grid with the marks given on circle tool and draw a circle. Then I will draw petals of circle symmetrically. Keep in mind that the number of petals will also be drawn symmetrically. Further, on the four directions of the cross, I will draw 3 petal design. All this information is provided in the PDF as well. Now I am copying the central pattern on tracing sheet to further tessellate it on the whole page. Again, I am using my mechanical pencil to copy the pattern. You can always use a softer pencil of grade 4B or 6B for higher graphite value. Make sure you are holding the tracing paper well, otherwise you can use masking tape or sellotape to keep the tracing paper in place. Draw a plus sign in between to get the correct alignment when you transfer it. Though it is very tedious process, but the end result of pattern making is very beautiful. It is a therapeutic process as well. It brings calmness and focus to the mind. Now we are done with drawing or sketching of the pattern. It is time to choose the color theme. I will be selecting a color theme from my previous work. All of these artworks were created using watercolor at least once. Watercolor are great medium for creating gradient effect and I really love working with them. For the artwork today, I am using my Daler-Rooney travel palette. Now I will just lighten the drawing a bit so that it doesn't show up through the color. One thing that I forgot to mention is lighten the grid before making the pattern only, as handmade paper could tear off while erasing. Kneadable eraser is a better option for this. If the pattern is created using tracing method, too much erasing is not required. You just need to erase the grid lines from the spaces where there is no motif. Also, you can correct the pattern where you have erased too much or the tracing is not done properly. Now I will just remove the eraser dust using an old paintbrush. You can use a clean cloth as well. Clearing of the eraser dust from the surface of artwork is required before painting as it could ruin the process of coloring. The dust could get stuck in your brush. Also, the surface of paper would look really bad. And here we are done. Now let's begin with coloring, which would give life to this pattern. Color themes that I choose are usually earthy and fresh. I will be using this color theme as I really love how green complements with peach. For painting, I will be using a round brush, Camlin synthetic brush, which is 6 in number. Though underrated, but it is very useful in coloring even the tiny corners. It gets back to the shape very easily. For the green that I am using here, I have mixed sap green and Prussian blue. We will just give a wash to get that transparent glass effect. Handmade paper really complements with watercolor and gives beautiful texture to it. Let the color spread in the pattern. Do not try to achieve perfection in terms of smoothness. Traditional patterns look beautiful when color gets a gradient effect. Make sure you cover the corners of the pattern. Now I will be making a peach shade using rose madder and burnt umber. Also, I have added a pinch of crimson. You can always lighten the shade by mixing a bit of water. You can leave a space between edges as I have done it here in my previous pattern. It really gives a beautiful look to the pattern. But for the session, I will be filling the whole pattern with color and give the details later. Again, you can see how naturally the peach color has got a gradient. Make sure to fill all the nooks and corners of the pattern. Make sure the base color is dry before coloring the motif. I am using yellow ochre in thicker consistency, but you can replace it with gouache poster color to get the opaque effect. Now I will give quick watercolor wash to the whole pattern. And then we will get into detailing, which is cherry on the cake. Now I will be painting the petals with a dark maroon color, which I made using crimson and burnt umber. I like to use the same round brush, but you can switch to a small tip brush or a miniature brush. Before painting the motifs on the actual artwork, you can practice them separately on a piece of paper. Because traditional pattern making or any pattern making requires muscle memory. So if you practice them separately, While creating the actual artwork, you won't find it difficult to create the patterns on such a small scale. Since it is handmade paper, color with thicker consistency are taking a longer time to dry. So you can color first the petals and leaves, later you can color the center circle. Again, it is a time taking process, but the end result of it is really beautiful. As this maroon color here has dried, I will try to color the center circle with yellow ochre to show you all how it will look in the end. Now let's give the process a nitro boost. Now the base color has dried completely and we will be proceeding to the details. I will be making this pattern using a white uniball pen. It is of 0.7 mm tip. First, I am just lining the circle with white color. Then I am painting small dots around it. Also, I will be highlighting the leaves with white color. You can always use white, gouache or poster color for highlighting purposes as it gives a much brighter look. I like to use white uniball pen as it merges with the base watercolor. Before I give again a nitro boost to the process, I will quickly show you how the other space will be detailed out. I am using Hooker's Green Dark from the palette to create a dark boundary and define the edges more. I am using Rigger brush from Brustro's miniature brush set. You can use a pen as well to do this, but I prefer doing it with paint. I am making a 3-petal lotus in the center and some leaves with same Hooker's green that we used for the boundary. You need not make this motif beforehand, it is as per your choice. I am really not liking the green space empty, hence I decided to make these lotuses in between and some leaves. I am making this motif freehand, aligning it with the grid. If you are making this pattern along the session, do share your work on Instagram stories and do not forget to tag me at the Little Kaur Studio. I would love to see your work and help you out further if you require. The pattern is almost complete, just last finishing touch is required. I am highlighting the dark green lines that we painted earlier with a white pen. This would again highlight the dark green lines that we painted earlier and would give a sharper look to the pattern. Now I am drawing a 4-petal flower in between the center circle of the motif. And here is the pattern. This is how it looks. I really love how we were able to achieve the color scheme that we had selected for the art piece. Again, this color theme stands out in my eyes. Here we come to the end of session. I hope you enjoyed learning traditional pattern as much as I enjoyed teaching it to you. Thank you so much to all of you for attending and the Summer Creative Retreat team for organizing this. Thanks to Peggy again for giving this opportunity. To stay in touch with me, you can subscribe to my email list through the link below. Take care.